What's up, Caleb? How are you, man?
Doing fantastic, bro. It's good to see you
Good,
again.
awesome. Thank you for being here. I am a little nervous, but we should get through this. But so Caleb is someone that I used to work with, and I saw him evolve, and I told him this off air a little.
Yeah.
How I saw him evolve from someone who lifted weights a lot to now the person that everyone knows, and it's Caleb, the sign guy, the You Are Loved movement. So I told him that whole different person. But I'm glad to have you here. But
It's. I'm glad to be here, man. Like,
yeah,
I'm always excited to talk with different people, and hopefully, there's one person that needs to hear what the Your Element's about, and as long as one person is helped, then hey, that makes this all worth it.
cool, cool. But and how did you get to the point where you're at? I know everyone deals with different things and struggles,
Right?
but for you, like what led you to the point that you're at? Like the things that you went through, the things that you had to learn.
Oh, you mean as far as getting to the You Are Love movement, or like where I am right now?
I guess both, right? But let's start with where you are now, because I guess you could say they're the same thing, but two different things in a sense, right?
Just different
Yeah,
chapters, I
yeah,
guess.
different chapters for sure. Yeah.
So right now, what led me to here is just essentially making a bet with God. Like, how the You Are Love movement got started was I was driving through Jordan University, and I was extremely depressed, but I wasn't like emotional. You know how like when you're feeling the super sad, and then you're just like like you're crying and all that. You just like feel really bad. Like I wasn't like even feeling anything. It was just like a clarity of I'm done. Can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
So as I was driving through that intersection, I heard God be like, or at least what I believe to be God, I heard an audible voice in my head say, "You need to stand on that corner with a sign that says you are loved." And I essentially made a bet with God. I was like, all right, cool, I'll do it. But after a week, I'm killing myself because I'm done and I can't do this anymore. So by getting up and going out there and holding signs, not only did it save my life, but it led me to the life that I have now. So that would be the first step to what led me to where I am. And it just, year after year, because it's been about 3 years since I've started, and every month, every year I've grown, and especially over this last 2 years or so, I've really been focusing on the growth. You know how life will, you just grow naturally as you do things, but you might not have a necessary like desire or goal to grow. Over the last year and a half, 2 years, I've really been putting an emphasis on the growth because I realized that we're going to live this life and I can stay stagnant and I can stay the person that I was, or kind of a better version of that person as I grow up, or I can really just enjoy the suck that is growing, address all the trash that was in my past and the trauma and the emotional hurt and all that kind of stuff, and really just feel what I had gone through and what I was feeling and address who I am. And then I started going back, and like this might sound extremely weird, but I actually started going back and actually having conversations with my younger self, like that young kid.
Yeah.
Because I was a military brat. At like 10 years old, like it dawned on me that if I make friends, I'm gonna lose them because within 2 to 3 years, either I move or they move.
Yeah.
So like from a very early age, I had abandonment issues. Like I didn't want to make friends. I didn't want to open up to anybody because I knew that whether due to their actions or due to things that they couldn't control, they were going to leave me. So I started going back to that kid and been like, you know what, it's okay to have felt the way that you felt. Like, you weren't wrong. But you can't stay in that emotion. Like, so I started going back to very like prominent times in my younger life, adolescent, you're starting to hit puberty and you don't know what the hell's going on in life, and you're just nothing but hormones and that crazy period of time. And then when you start having romantic feelings and you get your heart broken for the first time, and just I started going back and having conversations with the younger versions of myself and forgiving them for the negativity and the toxic behaviors that they had had. That way I could address and move on, because I can go back and have conversations with them, but they don't have the ability to have conversations with me. At least that's how it breaks down in my mind. Like, they can't be like, hey bro, let's have that conversation. Like, I know we need to do it, but no, I have to consciously go back there and do that. And by addressing previous versions of myself, I've kind of just moved on into a different, I don't know, man. It's kind of like you become responsible for your actions regardless of when they were. And obviously there are certain cases where I needed to go to apologize to people or make amends or whatnot, but there are a lot of times where it was just forgiving myself and addressing toxic behaviors in my own self. That way I could better myself and become somebody that was worth of respect and love, and just be a decent human being. Because I'll admit, like, when we worked together, I was kind of an asshole, and like I see that and I address that, but at the time that was the best version of a human being I could be. It was just because of my experiences and everything that I'd gone through. I was legitimately in my mind doing the best that I could do, but I was still horrible.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, but
no,
especially like in that environment, you had to kind of like, be an asshole in a sense, because, it was, for some reason, TDB had always been, the pit versus servers in a sense. Because like, the servers would be like, hey, I need this, and I need
get the hell out of here. We're going to get there when we get there.
Or it felt like 10 servers asking for the same meat kind of thing. And it was just, sometimes that you, like, it just, like we said, like, it made the worst out of you come out in a sense. And,
because depending on what meat you had, because, like, as you know, like, I always had, like, the house specialty top sirloin. And of course, I know every table wants this, and I'm going to get there as quickly as I can, but I'm not going to start cutting people.
From my perspective, it's like, whenever, like, y'all would be like, yo, chill out or anything, or, feel some type of way about it, I always got it, but some people took it personal,
The sad part about it is, in a restaurant, everybody takes everything personal. Because anytime a server said anything out of pocket towards me, oh no, I definitely wasn't the sign guy then.
And one thing that, like, from what you've said so far, that kind of I can connect with is, once, a lot of times we go through life and a bunch of stuff happens to us, and Ed Milet I listen to, and he says that things don't happen to us, they happen for us. Like, and for me, I can resonate with that in the sense of, so, a quick, simple thing. When I was younger, my dad made me and my brothers walk to school. And like, some people are like, why don't you just give them a ride? And they're like, no, they can walk. And it was like 3-mile walk, nothing crazy or anything, but he always made us walk. And then later on, I was on my own. My car broke down once, I had to walk to work. And this was before Uber wasn't even around. I would ask friends like, hey, can you give me a ride? But when they couldn't, it's like, yo, now you gotta walk. And later on, now, I think of those times and I'm like, yo, if my dad hadn't like made us walk, I would have called out every time or whatever. It's like, oh, I can't walk 3 miles to work, So in that sense, when he says that, I kind of can connect with that. And because and you talk about speaking with your younger self and like, hey, this stuff had to happen for us to become who we are now.
Right.
And that's so true. Like, when I was 18, my youngest brother passed away.
Right.
And during that time, like, I hadn't seen death on a personal level. You hear of like somebody else passing away. I didn't know how to control it in a sense. Like I lost my mind, not literally, but I just didn't have those emotions and hadn't been something to connect with. So later on, like other stuff
an experience you had
Yes.
never had to deal
Yeah.
with. Yeah.
So later on, like people passing away, like on my family or just people that I know. So I dealt with it differently. And you talk about God and so like like I believe in that as well. So like I was able to find comfort in God through that, and that's something that like now I think of, and I was like, yo, like I had to go through that when I was 18, and kind of like find myself in a sense, find my I wouldn't say my path, but just the way to deal with situations like that.
Right.
Because for some people, like it could have been like, oh, they become alcoholics or they can't function properly, and they're always kind of dealing with that.
Right.
And growth as humans is something that is a choice.
Yeah, absolutely. Growth is definitely a choice. So you said something that kind of makes me want to ask the question now.
Yeah.
But like before we had gone live, I had a question, and it was, what is your definition of love? So if you had to give me a definition of love, what would you say?
See, and I feel that if you had asked me that question, I don't know, a couple months ago or even a year or even when I married my wife, I didn't really know.
Right.
Because everyone has a different definition. Everyone's definition of love is way different. And like me personally, I had to go through things to really understand like my definition of love. And that's love. So I don't have like a concrete definition, but I have like things that my definition of love like in titles. So one would be loving someone, something without anything in return.
Right.
And then so with that being said, like I'll tie on loving them so much that you don't want to hurt them whatsoever.
Right.
And I say that because I'm married. So when I married my wife, I could say we were in love, but a lot of times it's emotional, and we kind of went through counseling and just be able to get closer together. And one thing that they said that kind of made me come to my definition was a lot of times when people get married and they say their vows, they're like, oh, I'll love you until the stars fall, or I'll love you as long as there's a moon. And you kind of give like, once this stops, I don't love you anymore.
Right.
So with that, I was like, it's so true in a sense, and that's why I said loving someone unconditionally with nothing in return.
Absolutely.
Because even if they hurt you, you're still gonna love them, maybe at different levels or in a different sense, but it's always gonna be there,
Yeah, I mean, it's to go off what you were just saying there, just because the individual hurts you doesn't mean you stop loving them. It's one of those things where like you have a right to feel the pain that they cause, and you don't have to be happy with the situation, but to stick with somebody and understand that we're gonna get through this. That's it. So I had an experience with a friend of mine which really helped me mold and shape what I believe is the definition of love. I had a friend who lives right across the other side of the apartment complex, and me and him would chill all the time. Like he would come over, we would drink, watch TV, just chill, have 3-hour conversations about the universe and all that kind of stuff. Like you have that one friend where you can just be as open and crazy with your ideas as you want. That was him. So I was like, hey, dude, you want to come over and chill? He's like, can't, I got work. Hey, dude, you want to come over and chill? Can't, dude, I got work. And this went on for like 2 months. And then one day I'm just chilling at the house. The next thing I hear is a knock on the door. I'm like, what? Who's the, because I never be a guest.
Yeah.
So I opened the door and it's him, and he was like, hey, dude, sorry I've been such a lousy friend lately. I got a 6-pack, you want to chill? And I was like, get your tail in here, come on in, man. So we sit down. Now, my favorite beer is free. My second favorite is cold, and my third favorite is anything other than IPA. So he showed up with a 6-pack of IPA, and I cracked it, took a sip because I didn't want to like offend him or whatever, and he was just like, you don't like it? And I was like, bro, I'm gonna be honest, I hate IPA. And he was like, oh, sorry, dude. And I'm like, it's all good. I appreciate you coming over and chilling. Like, you didn't need to bring it at all. So I'll leave it on the counter, and then the next day he comes over to chill again. I was like, come on in. Well, when we were getting set up to like talk or whatever, like I had knocked the beer over. And then I was like, in my mind, I was just like, I'm gonna get it cleaned up. I got a towel right here, no big deal. In his mind, he was like, if I had brought in a beer that he had liked, it would have been drank and it wouldn't have spilled.
Yeah.
We lived through the same exact experience, but his reality was something completely different than my reality.
Yeah.
And then that got me to thinking, like, the true definition of love, according to me, would be wanting to understand other people's experiences and why they like because me and him lived the exact same experience, but his reality was 100% different than mine. And like that got me thinking, like that's the reason why everybody is so different. We could literally live a life that is identical in experiences, but our reality would be 100% different.
Sure.
So to genuinely want to understand people's experiences and their reality to it, like, for instance, my beautiful girlfriend, she's gone through a lot of stuff that I have no idea what it's like, and there's just no way, but I want to understand her reality because I love her. I want to understand why she feels the way that she feels. I want to understand why she copes and handles things this way because of the things that she's gone through. And as long as I'm genuinely wanting to understand other people's reality due to the experiences they've gone through, that's in my mind love. Because if you don't genuinely care about people's reality and why their experiences shaped their reality that way, then you don't truly love that person. You're just running on an emotion. And I feel like nowadays people base love off the dopamine and the happy, good, lovey feelings, and then the second something's uncomfortable, they're like, well, this isn't love.
Yeah.
So that's
a good, like, that's insightful. And what you said, that people go off emotion, one thing that my dad like told me like before I got married was, love is a decision. And again, at the time I was like, oh, well, I decide that I love her, so I wanted to marry her in a sense, but I didn't really understand it.
right.
So with that, like, I love what you're saying, because two people married or whatever, like neighbors, again, two different perspectives, and that's awesome. And that's something, that's like an insight that I hadn't really thought about, you know?
I'm weird like that. I think about some crazy stuff.
Yeah, that's crazy. And especially now, like 2020's been so crazy, you know? And
if 2020 was a candy, it'd be black licorice.
Yeah, like I don't even, and it, like, even like back when Kobe Bryant passed away.
Oh, R.I.P.
So that was a lot of people that really felt hurt from that situation. don't, they didn't understand that perspective. Why? Because for a lot of these kids, Kobe Bryant was, yeah, a hero, someone they looked up to. I read this article about this guy who, I think he saw Kobe Bryant's last game, and he was like 300 pounds. And once Kobe Bryant retired, he's like, yo, I'm gonna make my goal to lose weight.
Right.
So for that, like even something little like that, because again, we're so quick to judge people for different whatever thing they do, whatever thing they like, however they dress, and we don't think of that, their perspective on that. And so I really like your definition. Like it's really
yeah, like because like I was saying with self-evaluation, as far as like when we work together, like I consider that to be the worst version of myself that I've ever been. And I'm proud to say that the version of who I am now is the version that I'm most proud of. I feel like I've done the most growing, and not like to pat myself on the back or anything, because I really don't care if you like me. It's more of one of those, I want to be somebody that I could like. Because I didn't like who I was when we worked together. Like, I genuinely knew I wasn't a great person. Like, I'm not going to say I was horrible, but I definitely wasn't good. And I totally lost what I was about to say. So,
well, you said, like you like yourself. Like, me personally, I love NF. And
me too.
Oh, yeah?
He's my favorite rapper.
Like, I love him because he's talented, so talented.
He's one of them. Like, and there might be a lot of people who don't like this, and if you don't like it, well then come for me in the comments. I really don't care. NF is this generation's Eminem. As far as talent goes,
I would say that, like just the way his message, his lyricist, like even like I would say, and again, people are gonna come at me, but I would say in a sense he's better than Eminem for one reason. Eminem never had good beats on his music. See, like there's a handful that you're like, okay, this is
bangers,
a banger,
bro.
Yeah, see, like there's a handful. NF.
No, but every NF beat,
like it,
even the soft ones, like "How Could You Leave Us" and Nate, and just like
so, like even like soft ones, like he's able to like make like this I forgot where I was going with this this guy
You're on my
like
energy.
he like I wouldn't say he criticized music, but he reviews music. He went kind of like bar to bar in a sense.
Yeah.
And he said how NF, every beat, even for like slow ones, he has that repeat value.
Yeah.
Like Eminem, it's like, oh, that was good, but are you gonna listen to it again?
Even in one of NF's songs, All I Have, he said that hip hop isn't dead; it's just been in mourning. Yeah. So it's like even he understands the really sorry state that hip hop's in.
I kind of took it off the train rails, but where I was going with this is, NF had on one of his songs, he said, if you had a list of people you trust, would you put your name down on it?
Yeah.
So I always think about that, because it's like we go about ourselves, and sometimes it's like, oh, but are you, would you trust yourself? Would you, talk to you? And like, I love him because it kind of.
He's so relatable.
Yes.
Because he's like in his song "Real," he said, "People love me because I wear my garbage."
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And like on my Facebook, like I even have a quote that says, "We're all messed up. Some of us don't lie about it."
And even like on Nate, how he talked about how he went back to his childhood, and these were the reasons why we struggle with this stuff. Like,
you don't want to get me on Nate, bro. I know every word.
Yeah, like it, and like to me I've never like really bought albums from artists because it's like nowadays you can just stream them.
Yeah, just go on YouTube.
When NF dropped The Search, I was like, I am buying it because he has given me so much value, so much thing to relate that like I'm gonna support him.
It's like, and this is the main reasons why I mess with NF. It is this I mean, talent, don't have to say that.
Yeah.
Beats, don't even have to bring that up. Lyricism, don't even have to bring that up. The main reason why I really love NF is because he's one of the few people, and he's one of the people that I'm trying to be, is he's transparent. He doesn't care what you think of him. He doesn't care if you like him. He's one of these people who's like, this is where I am. This is where I was. And here's my therapy sessions, because he talks about when he goes to therapy. And I really feel like The Search as an album in a whole was like, you know how you go through therapy and then you start to grow into the person you're trying to become? Like, I really feel like The Search was like that first initial, just like, I'm coming out of the darkness. And like, he wasn't afraid to talk about the stuff that he was struggling with, like in The Search. He was talking about like, the mind is a powerful place, and what you feed it can affect you in a powerful way. And he just like bro, I can talk about it for like hours. So
let's take a quick break. Let me check the computer real quick.
All right.
So I gave a message. I'm not. I'm sorry, it was just a quick volume thing, but yeah, like NF is definitely someone who I always listen to. Like even like his newest one, Paid My Dues. You know, because I love that song so much, because he still has that underdog mentality. You know?
I feel like that song, like, he's had a couple songs where he was like, if y'all want to come for me and I rap, if y'all want to come for me, I'm ready. But that was his one where he was like, I'm punching you in the teeth.
Yeah, and like, he's so relatable. Like, I love his stuff. Like, when The Search dropped, one of my buddies like messaged me, he's like, yo, did you hear? I was like 3 times. It dropped like late at midnight. My wife was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm listening to the NF album." Like, but it's so good, so relatable. But.
Yeah, and at the time when that album came out, it was beginning of summer last year. Yeah. So it means we got some new NF coming pretty soon. Probably within about the next 6 months or so. I'm excited for that. But I was probably in one of my darker times since starting the movement, because like, I used to be just depressed all the time. Then I started to get to the point where like, I would go months before I'd feel the big sad, and then I would go even a little longer, and then I was so sick of where I was. I felt stagnant, I was lonely, and all this other stuff. And the album came out, and when I say all I listened to was the Search album for like 3 months, and like, I'd come home after work and go for a run, and I'd listen to the album, and it was just because there's so much that you could just relate to, and you could hear how he was processing it, and I was like taking the way he like. So you know how he like in the song "Remember This"? He's like. Yeah, anger's a liar, he's got no respect. I fell in love with my pain and I slept with my regret. Happiness saw it, maybe that's why she up and left. Joy called me a cheater, says she's never coming back. The way he broke down those emotions in that song got me thinking, and about that time was when I had a breakthrough with my depression, is I realized depression, suicide, anxiety, all these negative emotions we feel, the reason why we feel so helpless is because we don't have an enemy to face. It's just this a faceless enemy that constantly kicks us when we're down and is telling us to blow our head off and all that other kind of stuff. So I put a face to the emotion, and I mentally made depression and suicide demons that are just demons in Satan's army who have a particular skill set. So you know, like in the army, you got your snipers, your paratroopers, your medics. Like, there's different branches in the military. So I'm sure like the devil has an army. So why wouldn't suicide be one of his generals? Why wouldn't depression be an admiral? Why wouldn't this or that? So then I was able to have conversations going back to the younger self. Now I'm having conversations with the enemy. So when I would start to feel depressed, I was like, all right, depression, all right, square up. What's up?
Yeah.
Like, if you want to do this, we can do this. Let's not forget that I can lock you in a cell. I got the keys. You know what I'm saying? Like, you thought you had me in the cage, but I have the power to tell you to F off.
Yeah.
So by listening to NF, I'm creating my own life lessons. I'm creating my own metaphors. Like, he just gives you, you know, that little spark of creativity. He helps you see and think things differently. And I'm constantly looking for different perspectives. And I'm very thankful that I'm much more open-minded now than I ever was back when we worked together.
Yeah. And for me, like, just mental health, I would say ignorant in.
Right.
Because like I told you, I've never struggled with depression or anything like that. Like, and now I'll get anxiety a little bit, but it's not at the point where I can't function.
Mm-hmm.
And growing up, my dad was always tough with us. So
was mine.
So when people would say like, oh, they're struggling with depression, my dad would be like, depression? He's like,
Ain't
you know, he would always say like, oh, let them get chased down by a dog, see if they're still depressed, you know, because like, and it was funny at the time, because you're like, you know, if you've been chased by a dog, you're just running through your
funny's
life.
funny.
Yeah.
I suffer from depression, and that's funny.
And so later on, I just recently listened to a podcast, and the girl on there said that she kind of felt depression coming on, like a flu.
Yeah. The best way I can describe it is depression will hit you, and it feels like it just hits you out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But if you're paying attention, there are days or even weeks where the symptoms will start before like the hard hit of depression, and addressing how depression hits you specifically, because it hits me one way and it probably hits somebody else differently, but I've learned what my symptoms of it were, and as soon as I felt it coming on, that's when I was like, oh, I was like, oh, I need to be proactive and start focusing on my mental health. I need to get out and hold signs, because holding the signs are honestly a therapy for me. Like 80% of the reason why I do it is because it helps me with my mental health, and then the other 20% is I really hope somebody else who needed to see that sees that. But for the majority, like, I just found a way that helps me but also helps other people. And but addressing how the symptoms will help you.
See, and like the way she kind of said it was that like it kind of, she feels it coming on, and she knows that for her it's just surrounding herself with her family. So, and I think that's, I don't know, but I feel that we have, like, people who do struggle with depression need to be a little bit more open about it. But again, I don't know how, you know, if you're going through that, if it's like, oh, if you want to even talk about it, you know?
There's a fine line. So I'm very open about the fact that I've struggled with it, but I rarely will be open about it when I'm dealing with it, because I don't want to be that negative friend. Well, Caleb, he's always depressed. You know, so it's like, I can open up about it, but it's like one of two things. Either I feel that my friends don't care because they're like, I don't want that negativity in my life, and that's just the depression talking, or my friends legitimately at that time just got their own stuff and they really just can't be bothered with the negativity. So it's one of those things where, like, I feel depression is a responsibility of the person dealing with it for the most part. Obviously, you gotta have your people, like my girl, like when I'm not doing good, I'll open up to her. You have to have at least one or two really good people that you can just be 100% honest with, like, this is where I'm at, and that's it. But for the most part, your normal carnal friends that aren't like in the inner circle, there's no reason for them to know.
Yeah.
Like, so.
Yeah, I get what you mean, because like I feel at some point you might start feeling more like a burden, you know, in a sense, than like just actually like, oh, I just need some help right now.
Now, there's a big difference between I need help
Yeah.
and I'm sick.
Yeah. I get you.
Because it's like if I've got the cold or the flu, I can handle that. I'm gonna stay at the house, drink lots of water, cuddle up in a blanket, sweat it out, suffer for a couple days, and I'll be fine. Now, if I'm at the point where I'm like, I'm gonna kill myself, that's when I'm like, I need help.
Yeah.
I need a friend at this very moment. Like, you gotta, there's different severities to it, and that's, yeah. So there's just different severities to it. So it's like being able to address what you need at that time, and then also having the strength to ask for help when you need the help, because there are a lot of times, especially speaking on my own personal things, like there were times I was ready to eat a bullet and I was not going to tell anybody, and that's also a huge problem with depression, is because not wanting help is also one of the symptoms.
Yeah. And like I read this stat that said between like 15 and 29, the second cause of death was suicide, and it's crazy in itself, because you're like, you have all these other things, but then it's suicide, and it's crazier for like younger people, because you know, like 15 through like 20, because like as growing up, especially in high school, like people are like, oh, what do you have to worry about in high school? In a sense, yes, but then you also have like external pressures, like, hey, what are you going to do after high school?
Yes, it was like I might not have the stresses of life right now, but I know in 2 years,
yeah, for sure,
all those stresses are going to be on my shoulder.
Yeah, and like, you know, it's like, and if you say you don't know, people are like, oh, you need to figure it out fast. And the reality is, like, there's people who are, you know, in their 50s that don't know what they want to do.
My biggest piece of advice for people who say that is shut your mouth, because I'm almost 29, and this year I just figured out what I want to do, and now I've created a plan and I'm working towards my goals for what I want to do. And I started college, but college just wasn't what for me. So these people are like, you need to go to college and you need to know what you're gonna do, and if you don't, you're screwed. Like, shut your mouth.
And like, especially, so like, one thing that I like, again, like I'm 26, and I finally feel like I kind of know where I want to go, and I know where I want to be, but it's like that whole process of like, how do I get there, in a sense. And for everyone is way like different, you know. Some people have to go to school and then change majors 5 times to figure out what they want to do. Some people go to like tech school and then figure out that that's what they want to do. Or some people, you know, pick up gaming and they blow up on Twitch, and then they're like making a ton of money playing games.
Or we got people making hundreds of thousands of dollars a month reacting to content on YouTube.
Yeah, true. And it's crazy, because now in 2020, I feel that there's more options than just like the old one, like go to school or, you know, go get a tech job or something, you know?
I feel like, you know, this could be a pretty ignorant thing to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. I feel like we've always had endless opportunities or options. People just weren't willing to figure it out. Like you said, you had a goal and now you're making a way, like trying to pave your way. I think that you should have a general idea of what you want to do and just start taking a step towards that direction. And as you travel this thing of life, you're going to realize, well, like, oh, that wasn't quite what I wanted, but this is the general thing. Because, like, I, at a young age, realized that I wanted to do something publicly. Like when we were working at Texas State Brazil, I was trying to become like a fitness influencer, and I was working out 2 times a day, and I was learning diet, and I was spending so much money and time in the gym, and I was learning different movements and like trying to get my lifts up as heavy as I could and trying to just get ripped. And it was like, yeah, I enjoyed it, and for the season that's what I needed because it helped me build some discipline. But like, then I realized, well, fitness isn't where I want to go. And then I realized it was mental health.
Yeah.
And just being an advocate for those who struggle with mental health. And now I think ultimately is I would just enjoy traveling and going to like being on podcasts and talking with people.
And just being open. And that's awesome because, again, like I feel like we need more people to be open about it. Because there might be people who are like, oh, I'm struggling with this, but I might get criticized, or and when I saw like your post started popping up, and I was, I didn't struggle with it, but I liked it, I enjoyed it because I was like, hey, it takes guts, and it takes someone to, it takes a different kind of person to go and be like, hey, I'm gonna hold the sign on Jordan Lane so everyone can see it, because it's not, I don't think anyone can do it. For me, like, I've never been that type of person to put myself out there. So for me to like be like, hey, I'm gonna hold a sign, even, I just couldn't do it. So like it takes someone that with a goal in a sense, but at the time you were just trying to live, in a sense.
Like at that time, I was killing myself at the end of the week. I already put it up in my mind, like it was done. So it was like, there are worse ways to go out. So what's a week of embarrassment? Because at the end of this, nothing changes. So, and I've also I never really cared what people thought about me for the most part. But the first couple days were pretty embarrassing, and I don't know why, but like.
And like, did you get reaction from people like right away, or like honking, or like? Or,
the first time I did it was that week, and obviously you get the honks and the waves and the that kind of stuff. But like nothing social media wise, and that was 100% fine because once again I wasn't doing it for attention. I did not expect me to be where I am now because of it. It's funny how God does that kind of stuff where he's like, I'm going to take something when you're at your worst and I'm going to bless you with a platform to love people because you know what it's like to not feel loved. And then, so like I did it, and then like from the day that I started to the day that I quit, like I was a completely different person emotionally. Like I received so much healing from going out there and just putting out love and positivity. And after going on this journey of love, like I realized that what you put out in the world is what you're going to receive. And I realized that for years I was putting out so much negativity. Like I wasn't like being necessarily extremely toxic to people, but like it was like I never had anything nice to say. Like it was always problems or this or that. So of course, the only thing that life is going to give me are problems because that's the only thing I'm talking about. And it wasn't until I started like putting out love and putting out positivity, and then after doing it, like then I went out there and was like, now I want to make one person's day. And genuinely just being out there, and it was hot and it was cold, and I got sunburned and windburned and just the elements. You're standing on you're standing on concrete in Alabama during the summer, like it's hot, but I had so much fun being out there like encouraging people and hearing the honks and the waves and whatnot. But to answer your question, I'm sorry. The first time, we got the honks and stuff, and then went out there and did it again like 6 months later because like I hadn't planned on making it an all-time thing or a consistent thing. And then I went out there again, and I was out there for like 3 or 4 days, something like that. And then the next thing I know, my Facebook is just getting I'm getting tagged and everything left and right. And when I went out there, I was expecting it to be like the first time where I was like, I'm going to do this for me and I'm going to have a good time. And then I'm going to go back to my life and figure out what I'm going to do. And then the next thing I know, I've got 2,000 friend requests on Facebook.
That's crazy. And it's crazy because, like, in a sense, like, were the honks like a sense of like encouragement kind of thing, like, hey, this might be the right thing to do at the time?
I'll be honest, after the first couple days, I put headphones in and played a lot of rock music, and I was just out there to have a good time. And I really can't, because it's so loud out there already. So I tried to drown out as much of the traffic noise as possible, because then it would just like throw me off.
I got you.
But I would just be out there, and I didn't care what people thought about me. I was out there dancing and headbanging and just going with the music and my white guy version of dancing and just having a good time. And because when I'm out there, I'm not trying to do it for the attention, because once again, I don't care what you think about me. That's why I'm not afraid to be out there head banging and dancing with a sign. But I think that the reasons why and the emotions during an action are what truly mean things. So like if I'm out there to try to get a bunch of people to honk at me or tell me that they love me or anything like that, then I'm doing it for the wrong reasons. But if I go out there, drown out all the noise, put my headphones in, put on some punk music and just go have a blast and just I'm genuinely enjoying the moment, those emotions are released into the universe, into the world, and we give off frequencies. Even Tesla said that if you want to understand the world, you have to understand frequencies. That's how I was able to invent like the electricity with the Tesla and all that other kind of stuff. We give off those frequencies. That's why when somebody's not feeling good, you're like, oh, dude, are you okay? You feel it, you know. But when somebody's happy, you're like, oh, I like that person because they make me feel good. We give off those emotions. So if I'm out there genuinely just trying to be a conduit of positivity and love, like that's how you make a difference in the world. And that's how I get my dopamine and I help my mental health. And it's just, so I go out there just to try to be as positive and goofy and funny. Like I've gone out there in a bald eagles like onesie, like just to get people to laugh. Like I like if I can take somebody who was like, my favorite person to see when I'm out there is that person who just they're zoned out, and then they look over, they read the sign, and then they just start crying. And it's just like, that's the person who, because there have been a lot of days where I was just like, I'm ready to leave, and there's a part of me who's just like, no, the person who needs to see this today hasn't come through this intersection yet. So I would stay for an hour, another 2 hours. There were some days where I was out there for like 3 or 4 hours. And then I would see that person, and then like it clicked. I was like, today was for them. And those are my favorite people to see, because I know what that feels like, because I've driven through the intersections, zoned out, and all it would take is just a minor thing to make me break down and cry. And like I understood that they understood what was going on. Like we had an entire conversation without ever saying a word to each other. So yeah, the honks and the waves and all that kind of stuff, they feel good and they're fun, but the ones that I just enjoy the most are the ones where they look over at you and they like shed just one tear, or they cover their face, or they like, because I know how much that they needed that. So those are the ones that I enjoy the most. They just, there's not a better feeling in the world that I've ever experienced than to know that I helped somebody in that aspect.
And I feel like that's helping people. Like helping someone is something that a lot of us take for granted, and the joy that it brings.
Yeah.
You know, because like we get so busy with life and stuff, and the times the little things or big things of helping someone, like you we forget how much joy like it actually brings. You know, yeah, putting someone else, like even if it's your toddler or whatever, like my child will wake me up at 2 in the morning and she says she's thirsty. And I'm like, okay, here I go. But then she's like, oh, thank you, like kind of thing. And it's just little things, you know, or like helping people. Whatever it is, like that joy from helping people, it's something that a lot of people probably don't experience on a personal level.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like you said, it's the joy that it brings back. And I heard someone talk about the law of attraction. And you're talking about like what you put out into the universe is what you get back. And when I first heard it, I was like, oh, this sounds kind of cheesy, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But as you go and I see more people speaking about it and just kind of seeing the reaction of like like the reaction other people get from what you're actually putting out.
Yeah.
And just whether it's like you're helping them or you know giving advice and like or even if you're negative, you know, like it's that and
negativity attracts negativity,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
positivity
Yeah.
attracts positive.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've been taught this our whole life. Like, if you're a Bible believing Christian, and I was raised in the church my entire life, and I've kind of updated what I believe. I'm still a practicing Christian, but there are some things that I have questions about. But in Colossians, it says, speak and these things will be manifested.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we've been told, like, it's in the Bible, it's in the scripture. And so if you're a believer in the Bible, like even God said that if you speak, that's what will manifest in your life. So if you're constantly speaking negatively, then why are you surprised that your life is negative? If you're speaking positively, then bam, because ever since I started focusing on positives and growing and self-evaluation and trying to become a better human being and more positive, excuse me, that's when the blessings happen. Because like all I've wanted since I was 16 years old was to be a husband and a father and have a family. And I've never really cared about money or the cars. Because I mean, I've lived in nice places. I've lived in trashy places. I've had nice cars, motorcycles, money in the bank. I've lost it all. Like, I've had things and I've lost things. And I've never really cared about all that stuff. So like, I'm minimalistic. Like, if we're going to be honest, give me a small cabin in the woods, some acres of land, and a hot cup of coffee without some internet so I can just disconnect, and I'm a happy man. But after I started focusing on the positives, that's when God blessed me with this beautiful woman who's going to be my wife. And she brought me a son. And now I have a family, and now I have a decent job where I make enough to support them without her having to work. And it's like I said, if you're a Bible believing Christian, go read Colossians. It says this: speak and things will be manifested unto you. And it's in the pagan and it's in just normal like life stuff. Like
I heard someone say like just saying things out loud, whatever it is, you know. And it's so true because like the first time, so like I used to be in somewhat of a good shape before I got married, had a little girl.
Bro, you're still in good shape. And you're in better shape than I am.
Like, you know, life gets in the way for whatever, like we were saying, you know, your goals or things that you wanted to do. Like life just kind of gets in the way and we forget about it. But so like at the beginning of the year, I was like, hey, I'm gonna get back in shape, and it was always just a thought.
Right.
And because it's one of those things, you know, you go to work and then you come home and then the family. So you kind of, it's like, when do I have that time? So this guy said, you know, just say it, just speak it out loud. And so I was like, yo, this year I'm going to get into shape.
Right.
And I was going to run a marathon back in April in Nashville.
Did you do it?
No, because it shut down because of Corona and stuff.
Bro.
So,
I haven't heard anything on the news about Corona in like a month and a half. I feel like if we haven't gotten it, we're not going to get it.
And it's crazy because at first, you know, everyone was like afraid kind of thing. Some people got laid off, like, and I was just thankful that I was still employed. And it was like, all right, let me just kind of see where this goes. and it was just scary at first. But now it's like, oh, I saw this meme that said it was 3,000 years ago where they said 15 days to like flatten the curve or whatever.
Yeah.
But now it's like we've kind of seen the numbers and stuff, but.
And the CDC even released something within the last couple weeks saying that only like 6% of the deaths that they had registered for COVID were actually due to COVID, and that most of them were due to 2 or 3 other underlying factors. And so there's no telling. I'm not going to sit here and say what you should or shouldn't do. By all means, wearing your mask isn't going to hurt you. If anything, just be a decent human being and wear your mask, because once again, it's not going to hurt you. And I'm sorry, if the whole world had corona, it's not some political stunt to take away your freedoms. So just wear your mask so we can get this over with, because I'm ready to go to a concert and I'm ready to run a 10K.
You said concert, so like NF was coming to Huntsville.
Real quick, before we switch to NF, I just want to say something. Like you were saying with speaking, there's so much power in your words. Think about it. Why is it called spelling? It's because words have so much power. They're spelling. Like, at least that's how I like equated like the power to words. But if you struggle with, and this is, if anybody's listening to this, if you struggle with anything, addiction, depression, gambling, anxiety, stop saying I have XYZ. Stop saying I have depression. Stop claiming it, because that's what you're doing. Instead, choose your words more carefully. Say, I've struggled with depression in my past. You might still be struggling with it, but you're taking away power. And those little things have helped me a lot. Instead of saying, I have depression, like I used to. And I used to say it all the time, but every time I said it, subconsciously, I was telling myself that I have something that just has power over me and there's nothing I can do about it. Even though I wasn't saying all that, in your mind, you're telling yourself that. So choosing your words more carefully, forcing yourself to tell yourself positives. It's a little silly, but I had a little cheer that I did in the morning. Like, I'd get up and be like, I'm healthy. I am happy. I am healthy. I'm terrific. From the tips of my toes to the top of my head, I am a winner. I am a go-getter. I am a somebody with only solutions. Like, I would hype myself up in the morning, because the whole day I was telling myself negatives, like, you're not good enough, you're not worthy of love, you're a piece of shit, like you're a failure, nobody's ever gonna love you. Like, I was telling myself those things all day long, and I'm sure if you have depressions, you can relate to that. But it wasn't until I started going like, you've overcome a lot. I'm proud of you. You don't have depression, you struggled with it. But you're overcoming it. You're handsome. Like, don't be afraid to be your own hype man.
Words of affirmation.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Like, I saw this video of this guy, and I guess it was his toddler, and he like, even at a young age, he was telling him, and the things that he was saying was, I'm smart, I'm blessed, I can do anything. So now, like, with my little girl, like, I'd be like, hey, Sophia, I'm smart, I'm blessed, I can do anything. Because again, it's like, it's that just repeating that to yourself kind of thing, and just putting positivity like out. And David Goggins, I don't know if you heard of him.
You've got to control your mind. You've got to become mentally strong.
So one thing that he says is the cookie jar.
Yes.
Where now it's.
Babe, let me see my phone real quick. I've been listening to a lot of David Goggins lately, and like, I adapted that, and I put something that just really resonated with me as of late. And like, now I carry little strips.
And like, one thing that like I want to like tell people about it. It's like, yo, get you a like it's not an actual cookie jar, but who he says is just the little victories, the little goals that you accomplish. You know, you put them in there.
Even the stuff that he failed at,
Yeah,
he put
like,
those in there
and,
too,
like,
because
it's
like I overcame
go,
that.
go back and like, cause like, again, we're not always gonna be at 100 every day. You know, there's those days that
Yeah.
you're feeling down. And you're like, man, I can't do that thing, or like the struggles, and it's like, yo, just go back to those moments, those little victories. Like, hey, I lost 10 pounds, or hey, I was able to save a little bit of money, or hey, I got up early this weekend, or hey, I'm getting better at my job. I'm getting closer to my goal. I'm getting closer to being able to do my craft full time, whatever
Right.
it is. And yeah, it's those little victories. Like I'm like, so there's this guy at work that I'm pushing to want to get better, kind of
Right.
thing. And I'm always like, yo, just wake up in the mornings, take a walk. Hey, stop drinking soda, stuff like that. And it's like you're not gonna go from one person to another overnight.
Right.
And it's like, yo, just the little victories, whatever you get. There's this friend at work, and like she's definitely changed her life around, in the sense like she stopped drinking soft drinks, eating out, and she's like lost like 20 pounds. She's training for a marathon, kind of thing. And every time she posts stuff like that, it's like, yo, like those are the little things that
anybody can do it.
Yeah, and it's that, like, yo, when you feel like not doing it, whatever it is, like, yo, the little victories, the little cookie jar.
And I think the biggest issue with that is I think people think that my best is being at your personal record or breaking it. There was one time when I was working at a chiropractor that somebody had quit, and I ended up doing 2 positions. I was running therapy, and I also learned and had to take all the x-rays for the clinic, and we were seeing 150, 200 people a day. So I'm running around with 13 timers on my belt, taking x-rays, and be like, hold on 1 second, I gotta go take somebody off therapy, run over there, take them off therapy, make sure everything was good, run back, do this. And I did this I was humping for 2 weeks. And then it came to Friday, and I woke up and I was just done. Like, physically, I had nothing in the tank. I felt sick, congested, headache, I was like, I can't do this. But like, I woke up and I called my boss and was like, hey, when I come in, I need you to adjust me, and I'm gonna give you the shift. I can work the 3 hours we're open, but after that, I'm going home. I don't even know if I can really handle the shift, but I'm gonna go over there and give you my best. That day was not the best I ever was, but it was my best. And that day, I will remember this for the rest of my life. That day, I had more people come in and give me compliments and just tell me how much they appreciated me. And my best that day was enough because I showed up. 90% of the battle is literally showing up to the battle, because after about an hour, I started to feel better. And then by the end of the shift, I ended up staying and working the entire shift, because once again, showing up is 90%. I already did the hard part. I got out of bed, I got dressed, I drove to work, I got adjusted, ate some breakfast, got some coffee in me, and then just started loving on people, because that was the best part about working at the chiropractor. I literally got to do what I'm doing now. And that's just people come in, they're depressed, don't feel good, they're sick, physically having problems, and I just have the opportunity to love on people and talk to them and learn who they are, and just get to meet new people. And the chiropractor was hands down probably my favorite job I've ever had. And if I ever had the chance to, like, I still help them every now and again and do different things, but I'll never forget that day, because even though it wasn't the best I had ever been at the job, like as far as just like showing up and kicking butt and taking names, my best that day was more than was needed to get the job done. And if you're like, well, I used to be able to run a mile in like 8 minutes, but I'm 250 pounds now. I don't even know if I could run a mile. Well, then walk it. If that's your best, just do your best. It's okay to be where you're at as long as you're trying to better yourself. Because, like you said, at the time when you knew me, I was squatting 405 pounds. I was deadlifting 550, and I was benching 315 for reps, and like I was strong as hell. I can't do that right now, but if I get in the gym, which is a goal of mine, to get back in there and start bettering myself physically, I'm actively making steps towards that. I probably will only be able to bench like 135, but that's okay because I know I can get back to 225.
And like you said, that like just showing up, just starting, taking that first step is like most of the struggle kind of thing, for whatever it is.
Right.
And yeah, like one thing that I have, growth is a choice. Like I have it written up there, growth is a choice. And that's something that's like, yo, you're choosing whether you want to get up early or whatever it is. I'm going to spend time to better myself. It's always, you as humans we have that choice, but then we also get comfortable. What?
I'm sorry. When you said that, my mind runs on inappropriate comments and NF lines, and you said that, and I was just like, we wasted a lot of time crying over wasted time.
Yeah.
And so I'm sorry.
But yeah, like back to the concert thing. I was gonna go see NF when he was coming to Huntsville.
Yeah, I was so excited.
And then
everything got canceled.
And then rescheduled, and I'm like, oh, maybe they are gonna do it, and then it canceled again. But I was able to see him once when he opened for Logic in Nashville. So
yeah. My friends went to that one, but I was so depressed at the time. I was just like, because it was two of my better friends, and it was them and their girl. And then, like, if I had gone, I would have been that fifth wheel. And, I really just didn't want to spend a weekend with couples who loved each other and were all over each other, and I was alone because I was salty at the time because I was alone. So I just chose to stay home and be depressed.
Yeah, and even at the time, I wasn't, like, fanboying over NF at the time. Like, I had heard a couple of his songs. I'm like, yo, he's good.
Yeah.
But then, it was until later that. But yeah, and even like music, like some people cope differently with with like different situations, and like for me, music has been one of those things. And like someone compared NF to Eminem, and I'm like, they're similar, but NF makes it a positive in a sense. Like, hey, I'm struggling with this, but he kind of put it in the past, So, and I say this because like Eminem,
their crazy is different.
Yeah, that. So to me, NF's crazy is more positive in a sense.
I feel like his crazy is just real.
Yeah.
Because he talks about like. So, like, my mom hit her boyfriend in the back of the trunk because my dad couldn't see it because then he would take us away from her. Whereas Eminem is like, hi, kids, you like violence?
Yeah, or like, see, like that, like two different levels of crazy. And like, but yeah, like NF has been one of those things, like artists who have like helped me like just kind of get through different situations or like stressful situations just because, again, he's so relatable, but...
The Ilmana Hobson's really good too. I don't know if you've heard that.
I've tried Hobson, but to me he kind of sounded like a crazy Eminem in a sense. And there's a handful of songs from Hobson that like people put me on. I'm like, okay, I like that one.
It's definitely not on like an NF level, but there's only like really one song from Ilmana Hobson that I really messed with, and that was number 8, where he's walking through the desert and he's just questioning God.
Okay, I did hear that. I'm like, I saw a reaction to it.
Yeah.
Because it was like my preacher dad reacts to Hobson.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah.
And I love the preacher because he was like, yeah, I definitely understand where he's
like
he's so
chill
understanding.
Yeah.
He's not condemning.
Yeah, or like being judgmental, right?
Yeah.
Like, he was like, okay, I see why he would think that or whatever, but
I think I wish more Christians were like him because I feel like Christians have given Christians such a bad rep because they're so judgmental, and it's just like I'm a Christian. I have a lot of questions that would piss off a lot of Christians.
And one thing that, because my dad's a preacher, so a lot of people hear that and they're like, oh, they're like, oh, you're a preacher's kid. So they feel like I was like just indoctrinated with everything that like Christians have, like just being judgmental and stuff. But my dad did a good job to where he's like, hey, just because I believe these things, you don't have to believe them as well. He let us kind of grow into believing what we want to believe in a sense, and he always talked about how Christians are so judgmental, and now it's like just be a different picture or like different image for people about Christians. Like, hey, just because I'm Christian doesn't mean I can't speak with you because of this, or just because I'm Christian I can't have a conversation because of this, or I can't be friends with you because of this.
Yeah, my biggest thing is if God gave me the free will to decide what I'm going to do, then I'm not going to judge you for the decisions you made because you're exercising your free will rights that God gave you. So if you do something I don't agree with, okay, cool. I might not agree with it, but like you're living your life, I'm living mine. I'm not going to judge you for it. And like I got a lot of friends I got a lot of Christian friends who do some things that I don't agree with. It goes both ways, but it's like you're living your life, you're on your journey. I'm not going to judge that. Now, if you ask me, I'll tell you what I think, but like I'm never gonna be like volunteering that or being those Christians on the side of the road. They're like, "You're going to hell." It's like because that's the opposite of the gospel. The gospel, Jesus said that I came to the world not to condemn it, but that the world through me might be saved. And I just want to be that person where people are like, "Why are you different? Like, why are you the way that like?" Everybody says that Christianity isn't a religion, it's a relationship, but then they fail to establish the relationship. And then they want to treat Christianity like it's a seminar at your college where you're just like, this is this, instead of just being the person that God calls you to be and then building relationships with people, because it's like right now, we're having open dialogue and conversation, and like we have a past, but like we never hung out, and like we know of each other but we don't know each other, and it's just like we're building that relationship, and like I'm learning different things about you. I didn't know you were a pastor's kid, and I didn't know about your brother, and like we're getting to share this experience. We're building that relationship, and by having open dialogue and conversations without judgment or condemning other people for their beliefs, that's how you're able to open up people to what you have to say. So Christians, I think we just need to stop being so judgmental.
And I feel like, especially in the time that we're living, the ability to have conversations with people,
so easy.
Yeah, and it's something that we don't do a lot, or just being able to have conversations with people like, oh, why do you believe this? And even at the end, we could still believe different things, but doesn't mean we can still, be friends or have a friendship or associate.
Right.
And it's something that's like, we just need to have more conversations.
And that's why I'm so excited to get the podcast up, because I want people from all walks of life. I want far left to come in and tell me why they believe. I want far right. I want in the middle. I want Christians, agnostic, Satanists. Like, I want to know why you believe what you believe. Like, and I'm not saying there are going to be many people that will change what I believe, but like, I want to constantly be open to the idea of new ideas, because let's be honest, the only thing we know is that we are a life form floating on a rock in space. There's no concrete proof that Christianity is the way. There's no concrete proof that Buddhism or Islam or the Egyptian god Horus or whatever. We don't know for fact. We truly don't. All we know is we're taking quote unquote educated guesses. And I'm just going to live my life and learn different experiences and not be afraid to hear other people out and just, I mean, because an open dialogue hurts nobody.
Yeah.
So I'm just excited to get, because I just want to know why you believe what you believe. Like, I'm not saying I'm going to join you, but like, if you tell me like, this is the reason why paganism is the way, I'm like, that's a cool story. I don't, I'm like, whatever. But like, I just want to get to know people.
Yeah, and I feel like people in general are curious, you know? Like, I'll get on YouTube and then I'll end up on a rabbit hole just because I'm like, oh.
3 hours later, like, why am I learning how to make a bow?
Yeah, or like, why am I watching marble races? You know, and it was just like, you know, like, yeah, but it's crazy, but.
Yeah, YouTube is a dangerous place, man. Be like on there listening to an NF song, next thing you're over here on a Ryan's tour review. Or you got a 2-year-old, next thing you know, Blippi comes on.
Or like, Blippi or Peppa, like, like, I'll get on my YouTube and I'm like, oh, I guess. And it's crazy because like my toddler will wake up like at 6 in the morning. She'll go find my phone and I just have a swipe and she'll swipe it, put YouTube on, and I'm like, where's that sound coming from? I'm like, yo, she's watching Peppa. Or,
It's crazy. My 2-year-old, so I work night shift, so I don't get home until after 1:30.
Yeah.
And then, but he loves to wake up at the crack of dawn, and we'll be so tired, like I'll just hand him my phone. He'll be on YouTube for a couple hours until he gets hungry, and then he'll be like, hey, mommy, Taylor, I'm hungry. But all right, let's go get you an apple or something. But he'll just be over there watching Fireman Sam or Blippi. And then next thing I know, it's time to wake up, and I'm hearing BLIPPI.
And like it's like you see like a toddler like learn how to use a phone.
Oh, I know.
They can swipe and all
and
this
they're
stuff.
picking up so quickly.
Yeah, I know. Like the first time I caught my daughter, she was swiping. I'm like, yo, is she swiping? Like,
it's because we had that old Nokia phone that only had Snake on it.
That, like, I remember, you know, Saturday nights waking up and watching cartoons or whatever, you know, Power Rangers or whatever came on Saturday mornings or whatever.
You want to hear a kid call you a liar? Tell him that it costs 10 cents for every text message.
Or that, or like, hey, or call me after what? Like,
call me after 9 so it's free.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like, there's this kid that I've gotten close to, and he's 19.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, like we were talking about like years. He was like, oh yeah, I was born in like 20 or like 2000. I'm like, wait, 2000? How? Yeah, but
it's hard to believe that kids that were born in 2000 or
20,
Because like I was born in 91.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I got something to say to them quote unquote 90s babies. If you were born in 98 or 99, you're not a 90s baby. That's a bold statement, but
because
if you can't remember anything from the 90s,
exactly. You can't, because like even like they're like, oh, 90s baby, and they'll show stuff from like 1990, and I'm like, yo, I wasn't even born yet. Like, you know, it's like until later on, but because I was born in 94. And even then, like, there's stuff that people show, and I was like, I was 3. Like,
I was born when the Rugrats came out.
I don't remember, but yeah, it's crazy.
This is the best way I can put it. If you were born in the 8, you are the next generation. Yeah. So like if I was born in 88, I would be a 90s baby to 98, and then 98 to 208. Yeah. So there's a 2, like if you were 2 or 3, you can remember some stuff. Like I feel that's fair, but there was this one girl at TDB. She was like, I was born in 99. I'm a 90s baby. I was like, no, you're not. No, you're not. Yeah. You don't remember. What was the orange VHS tape?
That was the Rugrats. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that was the Rugrats.
She didn't know that.
Yeah, crazy. But
just have you ever heard of the Mandela effect?
Is that? I've heard of it, but
it's like we remember things one way, but apparently when we go back and research it's different.
Like, I
personally think that time travel was invented. They're just screwing up what we thought was real. Like they changed things just a little bit.
See, like I've seen videos of like, oh, you remember whatever movie like this, but it was actually like this or something. Yeah. And I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah, there's so much stuff that we remember incorrectly. Or we could just be life forms who don't remember things very well, and I'm just over here, a conspiracy theorist talking about time travel.
Yeah. But I think we'll end it on this note, Caleb.
All right, bro.
Thank you for being here, and I hope that people reach out to you in a sense to just be aware and like it's mental health is something that's really important, especially like as human beings. Like I read this thing that said as humans we're expected whether you're male or female, if you're a husband you're expected to be a good husband, a good father, a good son, if you have siblings, a good brother. And if you start to fail in any of those areas, now you're failing, like, so it's like or society puts so many pressures on us that it's like, we're only human, we're gonna fail, we're gonna go through struggles, we're gonna, face adversity, and, we gotta head first, go through it.
Absolutely. I feel like for men especially that there are a lot of pressures on us that just quite frankly aren't on women, but vice versa.
Yeah.
There are a lot of areas where women's lives are much more difficult. But the one thing I would say is just because your past wasn't good, just because you're screwed up, that's not your fault, but unscrewing yourself is your responsibility.
Yeah.
Like, just because I had depression doesn't mean it was okay for me to stay there. Like, I had to find a way to overcome it. So I would just like to encourage people, just once again, show up and take that one step. And as long as you're making the goal of bettering yourself, your goal and your act, even if you only make your bed that day, like at least when you come home to a made bed, you accomplish something. And just that will trickle down. Like, I made my bed, and then the next day it's like, okay, I made my bed, and then you also clean the bathroom that day, or you cooked food instead of eating out, or you passed up on the soda and drank a water and whatnot. Because like this week, like life's so hectic, like I just really haven't had an opportunity to do the things that I'm trying to do to get to my goals. So like I was like, well, what can I do? And I realized, well, I can work on my health. So I cut out my sodas throughout the week, didn't drink any sodas during the week, and I started intermittent fasting and only eating within a certain window. And like I legitimately feel physically better, and it made waking up easier, made going to sleep easier. And it's they don't have to be huge goals that you accomplish, but doing just one thing to better yourself, because that's the only way you're ever going to reach your goals. Because you can sit there and talk about your goals all day long, but if you're not actively taking a step to try to achieve them, then you're never going to have them.
And it's like for me, like it's the little things that kind of at the end of the day you're like, hey, I did this and you didn't.
And it's okay to be proud of the things that you do.
I obviously don't tell people, but in my mind I'm like, hey, I got up earlier before work.
Yeah.
You didn't, or like,
because if you walked up to me and say you got up early before work, I'd be like, okay, cool, I don't care.
Yeah, like, see, that's it. Like, and then you're like, oh.
But you can be proud.
Yeah, you can.
You have the right to be proud for the little victories. Going back to the cookie jar.
Yeah, cookie jar. Put it in there.
And your goal should be to fill up the cookie jar.
Fill it up.
Yeah, and then when you're like, oh, this tastes sucks, but go to the cookie jar. Like, I got 5 things in the cookie jar. I'm like, okay, well, I'll read those 5 things, get my butt back in gear, and add a 6th.
Yeah, for sure.
But thanks for having me on, brother. I really enjoyed it. And once the You Are Love podcast is up and going, we'll have to have you on.
Yeah, for sure, and definitely keep connecting, especially like with Huntsville. Like, it's like there's a group of people that everyone kind of sees, so it's like, hey, let's spread more knowledge, like whatever knowledge they have, like let's talk about, just different perspectives, like you said, and just grow, because Huntsville's definitely growing, and it's like, we're
the number 2 city in Alabama.
Yeah, we need more podcasts where people can be like, yo, that's right here in Huntsville, or whatever,
So we got Antoine Johnson. We got the Michael Jackson guy, dancing guy. We got got my silly tail.
I saw the Antoine Johnson guy. He was doing what, selling real estate or
Yeah.
something or something.
Yeah, he said hides home.
Yeah.
You better hide your
Yeah.
family and I hide home.
that's
It was
crazy.
so funny.
Yeah.
I actually met him.
Oh really?
Yeah, he was dating one of the girls that worked at Taco Bell when I worked at Taco Bell. It was really funny. It's like I met him and I was like, I met Antoine Johnson. That's weird. That's weird.
Yeah, but all right, man. We'll end it on that.
All right, brother.
Awesome.
I
Thanks,
appreciate
man.
it.